Hello, my fellow readers. This is I, Dark Symphony 777, with another fanfiction review. As always, the link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a review of is, I'm going to move this camera thing out of the way, is More Than Just a Clone, Not Just a Copy of Man by Long Live the Clones. It's a Star Wars fan fiction, and I don't know why I decided to do a Star Wars fan fiction just completely out of the blue. Because I'm not, before I get into the review, I might as well just say I'm not a fan of Star Wars. I tried getting into Star Wars, couldn't do it. I saw I really couldn't. And I decided to just do the story just out of just no reason besides the story kind of interests me, kind of. So, that's why this one got lumped in with a bunch of other stories. It's like this is literally the odd story out. So, what's the story about? Well, it takes place immediately during the scene in episode 3 of when Order 66 was first issued. It takes place on the scene when the clones are about to shoot Leia Secura, the Twi'lek. Talk words better. So basically, what happens in terms of the plot is the scene happens as normal. They get the order, they're pointing at the guns. However, one of the clones, a Commander Bly, who was actually a real character, I thought, honestly, he was like an OC for a while, but it turned out he was an actual character, decides to, no, I'm not going to do this, jumps in front of Leia, takes the shots, stuns the troops about to kill her, allowing Leia to basically push the troops off and save the commander, and then they go run away. And then they get into a lot of shenanigans where they go to Mandalore, they meet Jusik and all these Gnolls, is what they're called. They're like other Jango Fett clones, but they're like kind of unstable sort of thing. I don't know. Like I said, don't know the lore. And they live, they fall in love. Leia, they want to go do missions. However, one of the person in charge knows they don't really want to risk having their children die. Commander Bly, spends a lot of the time just healing, just resting, and getting better. They go on a mission. Leia gets captured. Meets another clone who basically tells her it's like a lot of clones don't really like the order, but we're kind of like we don't really want to die. That's basically it. It's like, oh yeah, we really don't like Order 66, but the moment we try to leave, they'd probably just kill us, or more likely, Vader would kill us, and we don't want to die yet. And so that's basically the whole gist of the whole thing. It's just, well, that's fine. So it's, and the story kind of ends with them going and save another troop called K Squad, which are these commandos that kind of stick together in a family. The commando that helped Leia, the slick guy who said, "Oh, if we try to leave, they'll kill us," sacrifices himself to save Bly, to help them get out of the mines on this planet called Prisma. Star Wars is weird. And, they kind of, then Leia finds out she's pregnant, she's priggers, and then they're just like, oh, we're going to live in a world of Order 66. And that's pretty much the plot. I know I kind of bungled it, but I got the general gist across. The plot is okay for what it is. The only part of the plot that really is bad is the romance aspect. Now, I don't mind the fact that the story has romance in it. I don't mind it. My problem is the author decided to do the romance at the very beginning. of the story. And that comes off as not only very rushed, but very forced. If the romance was later in the story, I probably wouldn't complain about it, but how the story is done is just really, especially in terms of the romance, it's very awkwardly done, which is kind of sad because the story itself has a good premise of Bly trying to find out who he is and stuff like that. I'll talk more about that when I get to characters. But the plot, when it's not focusing on Alea, is probably the story's biggest strength, because I don't know why, but Alea is like completely made irrelevant for like 80%, 90% of the story. I'm like, well, I'm literally confused over that. It's like you literally started the story of a clone saving Alea. You literally rush a romance that came out of nowhere. That honestly feels very rushed. It feels very forced. And then you just shaft Alea and focus completely on the clone. I'm just completely confused on that aspect over just why the author would do that. And the fact that the author is a fan of the clone. I get that. Hence the name Long Live the Clones. But it just boggles the mind. The author would just go out of the way to make a romance, but then make the Alea as irrelevant as possible. It's really stupefying. And of course, we come to the characters. There's a lot of characters. I'm only going to talk about Alea, Bly, and Slate. Alea, irrelevant. Alea is, for the most part, is Alea. I believe she's like somewhat pacifistic. She's just, she's kind of kind and stuff like that, but she's willing to fight if it means protecting others. She kind of goes through this awakening where, the Jedi fell because they were very proactive and stuff like that. And thus, stuff like that happened. Bly is the most complete character. I actually do like Bly's character, and pretty much all the good parts is when it focused on him as a character, because there was a dimension of him trying to find his place, because he was a clone. But now he was a clone bred literally to defeat the drones and stuff like that. Now he's like, I lost that. I lost all that. And now I have to fight the people I worked aside with. And it's like, I don't know what do I do? And I like that aspect of the plot and his character, like his whole idea of finding himself in a post-66 world and just trying to figure out where does he go from here. It was a genuinely good character arc, and how the story kind of wedges itself in using that one philosophy to kind of push the story of like, well, we're cloned, but we don't work for the Jedi anymore. The Jedi's dead. What do we do now? Do we fight? Do we stay? What do we do? And it's like, I thought that was really cool. And of course, Slate was introduced probably like about over halfway in the story. He's the guy who captures Sakura. He's the one who's like constantly, it's like, oh, he literally starts out as like, okay, here's the Jedi's Vader killed. He killed this guy this way. He killed this guy this way. He killed Shakti by literally stabbing her through the heart and then stabbing her through the breast, making a smiley face. I don't know why I did that. But I want to know, why is he stabbing people in the heart? It's like, because they're ruined souls. Okay, good, Miss Sakura. Vader will be here soon. And of course, he also helps them. And then he turns out that he really didn't want to be part of Order 66 because him and a lot of other clones are like really bitter over just, are coming to realize this Order 66 thing was kind of bogus. So, so he tries to help people out, and then of course, when they're in the mines, he gives a sacrifice and because he was pretty banged up already. So he sacrifices himself to save Bly and the other clones to get out of the mines. And he's like, it's fine as it is. So we got like one good character, one okay character, and then one irrelevant character. Pacing and writing. The pacing is really fast. Like it's obscenely fast to the point where it reads like the author is just getting way too ahead of themselves by writing a scene and then immediately cutting to another scene in like weird breakaways. It's like near the end, there's a part where they're getting ready to go in the mines, and then randomly it cuts to Alea getting out of bed, puking, and wondering where Bly is. Of course, that was a hit. That's like foreshadowing to the fact she's pregnant, but that was just completely irrelevant and was just there to just randomly break up the story. It was just completely out of nowhere. It's just there's a lot of parts where there is just cognate storytelling and very basic, but serviceable. And then there's another part where it just completely speeds through another sequence. I'm like, why is this happening? Why is it going slow in the right moment, but then completely speeding up to the point of absurdity in other moments? It's just a very weird disconnect that really kind of did the story no favors, because for every good point the story had, it had like two bad points to just completely knock down what was good about the story and kind of just completely negate it. And now that pacing thing is the biggest issue I have. It was pacing and Alea's character, those two big ones, but there are a lot of other minor parts, like I said, the romance was completely unneeded. The writing itself was very, very basic. Sure, it's romance and comfort as the genre in fanfiction.net goes, but there was no reason for it to be hurt comfort. Like I can kind of see romance being, if it wasn't implemented like right away, I can kind of see romance kind of happening. And her comfort, yeah, it kind of works too, but not really as much as the romance or maybe drama or at least adventure. Like, fine. But the writing itself was very, very weak at points of the story. Like, I don't know why, but the author would just randomly do like very long story chapters and then like very short stories, and then it would kind of ping pong back and forth, and that actually played into the bad writing, where it was just very, very basic writing. Like, whenever it focused on Bly, the writing was good. Whenever it focused on anyone else, the writing got bad. I don't know why, but the writing, the writer always seemed to just completely fluff things up whenever it took the focus off Bly. When it focused on Slate, it was hit or miss. But when it wasn't on Bly, it seemed like the author didn't know what to do, and that's really kind of sad. I don't hate the story. You're thinking, I'm trashing the story. I'm completely trashing. No, I don't hate it. I'm disappointed by it. I think this is just an incredibly disappointment of a story because it had so much promise, especially in that first chapter alone. That first chapter really sold what the story was going to be about, and then it just jumped off a cliff in quality. That's just sad. So writing. And then finally, grammar. There are one or two grammar errors around, but nothing too bad. So take it as you will. Would I recommend this story? No. As much good stuff as it has going for it with Bly's character and the overall presentation of the plot, specifically from Bly's point of view, with everything that goes on with his character, I cannot justify recommending this story with everyone else's character getting shafted, the literally rushed romance, the ridiculously fast pacing, um, the kind of anticlimactic ending. I didn't talk about the ending, but the ending was just somewhat anticlimactic. There was just as much good as it had. It had so much wrong with it. I just couldn't. I just, for the life of me, I couldn't. I can't recommend it. It it was just disappointing seeing such a good idea go down the toilet so fast. So fast. That's bad. Favorite part? Not really. Nothing really stuck out to me. So, fine. What would I do to change the story? And there's two things you gotta know when wanting to change the specific story. The first thing is the plot. The second one is the characters and pacing. With the plot, I can kind of see it going the same way. Like nothing really changing about the plot. Granted, if you want to, you can expand it. However, that would take actual knowledge of Star Wars lore, and I'm not familiar with Star Wars enough, let alone the expanded universe, to know what to really change about it in terms of just the plot. So, take it as you will. I don't know what to do with the plot. I will say just keep it as is, just expand it a little bit to give the characters more breathing room. But outside of that, I don't know what to say in terms of fixing the plot. In terms of fixing the characters, however, first off, let me just say this: Bly's character, he's fine. You don't need to change anything. He's literally the best character in the entire story. All in all, they're pretty good. You don't need to change anything. For the most part, the only character you need to work on and changing is Leia. First off, the romance thing at the beginning, that needs to go. You can have the romance, you can have the flowery sex scenes. It's just make them make it so it happens later. So like they get to know each other, they kind of realize, oh, this stuff, this. You can have Bly confess his love to Leia at the beginning, but then Leia's just trying to, instead of just having her say yes automatically, you could have her, trying to figure out what to do because, the whole Jedi thing with romance and stuff like that. You could do an entire arc just her trying to figure out what do I do? I love him and stuff like this, but a Jedi shouldn't love. But if we don't live in you can do an entire couple chapters just dedicated to that mind of fixing up Leia's, make her more proactive, like get her more involved in the story. Like I said, I get the fact that this is supposed to be Bly's story, and like I said, his character is good. His character does not need any fixing. Even when he gets jealous of Slate because he thinks Leia makes cheat on Bly with Slate, it's believable enough that I don't want to change anything. But Leia's character needs reworking. I'm pretty sure I know Leia's character is kind of like, again, peaceful. She's like supposed to be like one of the peaceful Jedis. Like she doesn't really get into combat that much unless that's certainly necessary. But she's willing to protect the little people. Play that up. You could have her, kind of wander around the Forest of Mandalore by herself, just trying to get beat and everything. You can have her and this guy named Jukes to really kind of get in conversations, like deep talk conversation on what's happening around in the Empire with Vader's fist and Emperor Palpatine. There's a lot of stuff you can do with her character that really needed to be explored here and wasn't. And finally, the only other thing I would change is combine some of the chapters so that way it fit better. I'm getting like flashbacks at Astra per Aspera and expand the story. Like you have, in terms of the main character with Bly and the overall plot, they're serviceable enough that you don't really need to change anything about them. It's just a matter of everything's way too condensed, and it's just causing the story to be rushed to an obscene degree. The story needs to have time to breathe in order for to build up the romance, build up the other characters, as if you want to. and give us these situations with them trying to set everything up. Maybe add an extra chapter or two at the end when they're going to Tatooine or Taboo, whatever, Naboo. What I don't know which planet it's called, and then just starting up the Resistance, stuff like that. There's a lot you can do with that. It's just too scattered to mean anything in the long run, and that really hurts the story more than it has any right to be. I like the story. I like the main character. Everything else is just completely so bad it completely negates those two, that character and the plot. It needs an incredible expansion of the entire story. Is probably the most important thing. So that is More Than Just a Clone, Not Just a Copy of a Man by Long Live the Clones. I know the authors. I'm betting the author's probably going to be mad, but I'm sticking with it as it is right now. This is my opinion. Other authors will say this story is really amazing. I love this story as is. This is just my opinion. So, take it as you will. So this has been Dark Symphony 777 and cut.